for the TDP chief Chandrababu Naidu. His counsel was making an appeal for house arrest instead of prison time. That has now been rejected by the special ACB court, is what we're now learning. The petition for house arrest or custody in his premises is something that the court has rejected. He will have to serve his time in prison, in jail, until his judicial custody ends. Remember, he was remanded to judicial custody in a corruption case, the skill development case that he was arrested for over the weekend. Payal, my colleague, joining us, getting us more details of this. Payal, what exactly transpired in court, if you could take us through?
Well, what we are given to understand that his counsel had prayed before the court saying that Naidu is a high protector. He's a high security protector. He's been somebody who's been an NSG protectee in the past, and there could possibly be a threat to his life, and that's one of the reasons they had sought for him to be given house arrest. But the court has rejected that on the counsel on the other side, really saying that there is no reason for anybody to feel scared because enough precautions have been taken to ensure that Naidu stays safe in jail. There are multiple other things that have been ensured, including making sure that a temporary dispensary is available and even a hospital nearby, including a private hospital, is available should there be any unforeseen circumstances. And also the fact that Naidu was today housed in a separate cell, he was kept separately, was allowed home food. He was also allowed to have basic needs that he really required, and the state government has been able to assure the court that there is no threat to his life, and the fact that he is a high-profile criminal and he has to service term in jail and has to be set as an example, even though the PDP faction had objected to the fact that Naidu is a high protectee person, and probably there is no need to take a risk with his life in the Rajendran jail where a lot of high-profile criminals are lodged.
Right, so the arguments that Chandrababu Naidu's counsel had made clearly finding no water at the moment. So there is no house arrest so far. The safety and security aspect is something that the court hasn't found merit in. But Payal, for the moment, thank you so much for getting us the latest. We are shifting focus now to the big story that we're tracking here on CNN News 18, and that is the tough spot that the Canadian Prime Minister finds himself in, and this is over the free run that pro-Khalistani sympathizers have been getting in Canada for years together. Just as Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, leaves India after a 36-hour delay, while he lands in Canada, he is going to have a new headache on his hands because now an intel note has been accessed by CNN News 18. Information within the intelligence agencies going on to tell us how there is a plot that is brewing as far as these pro-Khalistani sympathizers are concerned in Canada. And the Canadian Prime Minister will now have to come out and face the facts. In fact, we're given to understand that the K group that issued the threat has issued a threat for a second time around in the last 48 hours, even as Justin Trudeau was here in India, enjoying India's hospitality. There were K sympathizers that were warning and threatening Indian diplomats in Ottawa, a message that was being sent to shut down the embassy or face consequences. That threat now coming to the fore. It is going to be interesting after the meeting between the prime ministers of the two countries here on the sidelines of the G20 summit, where we saw the Khalistani issue being raised and Justin Trudeau promising action, going on to say that they have immense respect for the law of the land and they will follow it. It'll be interesting to see how he goes back and actually ensures that his words translate into action. But let's take a look first at what exactly this intel information that we've accessed goes on to speak. These are the charges that India has raised with the Canadian administration, one of which is that the Trudeau government is aware of these activities that are taking place against India, of these secessionist activities that takes place there. It's not that they can turn a blind eye and say that we were unaware, because they definitely know that this is happening in their backyard. Unfortunately, they aren't doing much to contain it. Another charge that India believes is that the Trudeau administration is silent on the propaganda that these K groups are peddling openly. There's absolutely no censure as far as that particular action is concerned. Protecting of K members for political benefits is something that is now seems to be well known. Political compulsions for the Trudeau administration, for Canadian Prime Minister himself, is something that now the world knows is exactly the reason why he's not acting against these K sympathizers. Inaction under the garb of freedom of speech is something that India has now flagged. Freedom of speech does not mean anti-India activities are given a free run. That message is loud and clear. Diplomatic channels have failed on the K issue is what we're given to understand. The pressure is being applied at the highest levels at the Prime Minister's office. we're also given to understand is that Indian diplomats there are facing these threats from Khalistani members, like I just pointed out. In the last 48 hours, we've had 2 such threats come to the fore, even as the Canadian Prime Minister was enjoying India's hospitality here because his flight was delayed. The violence call against India in these rallies that is being given, there is absolutely no action by the Canadian administration. Even though Justin Trudeau comes to India and promises action, unfortunately, very little changes on ground. The Khalistani separatism issue is a complex and sensitive one, is the claim that the Canadian administration makes. But the point is simple. There is no complexity to this issue. These are anti-India activities. There is violence and hatred that is being peddled, and that needs to be stopped. There's nothing complex about it, and that's really India's stand as far as taking action against those elements is concerned. Deal without damaging ties with India and Sikhs is something that India has pointed out. There is going to be no compromise as far as security of Indian nationals, of Indian diplomats especially in Canada is concerned, and that is something that the Trudeau administration will have to take very, very seriously. They also recognize responsibility to ensure citizen safety. So India has raised multiple of these red flags. It is now up to the Trudeau administration and for the Prime Minister himself, after the dressing down that he got here in India, that he goes back and ensures that his words translate into action. Let's take a look at how exactly this free run for Khalistani elements has been ensured under the Trudeau administration. Khalistani rallies in Canada are supported by Pakistan's ISI, is what we're now learning via sources within the intel agencies here. The aim is to spread disharmony in society there. So it is the Pakistan-Khalistan nexus that finds room to flourish in Canada. Nothing new. Unfortunately, it continues. There's a large terror force that is formed within Canada is also what we're now learning. This seems to be emboldening the anti-India sentiment. The group allegedly directs killings and bomb blasts. Execution of violence in India at the behest of a Khalistani group is also something that is under investigation. There are reports within the intelligence agencies that this is something that is happening and needs to be stopped. Gangsters in Delhi and Punjab jails too are carrying out these tasks. There is propaganda that is being peddled through inmates in jail here in India. That is also something that India will have to work on. What we're also given to understand is the kind of strategy that they're employing. The youth born post-1984 Sikh riots are targeted by the Khalistani groups. They're trying to play on that sentiment, trying to fish in what they think are troubled waters. Radicalized picture of Operation Blue Star is given to them to try and whip up that sentiment. That's the kind of strategy that we are... Justin Trudeau is now on his way. A dressing down being given by the Indian Prime Minister. It's now time that when he lands there, his first point of action should be to act against these Khalistani elements who are threatening openly the Indian diplomats there.
Well, the fact is that don't think he will act, because it's a compulsion which Foreign Minister Jaishankar has also called out, that the people who are keeping him in government are the ones who are calling the shots. Now, the open allegation that's being made is that those who are in political power in Canada, running political parties, are inimical to India. They harbor an issue and they are the ones who are actually seeding these secessionist groups and also backing them and sponsoring them, propping them up. And that's the reason why, because of political compulsions, that Justin Trudeau is looking the other way. Sushant Sareen, who was on the right stand only yesterday, asked a very pertinent question. 9th of September, Poonam, and to our viewers, was the 22nd anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, bombings. Would Justin Trudeau allow a rally that would showcase perhaps the crashing of the planes into the Twin Tower by those people who are sympathetic to those who perpetrated these attacks? Would he allow that on Canadian soil? If he is not going to allow that on Canadian soil, how can he then allow those people who are talking about breaking India, cutting India, and also attacking our Indian Foreign Minister and also Prime Minister? How can he allow those activities? That's the first part. The second point, 2 incidences in 48 hours that he's been stuck in India. How embarrassing is that, Poonam, that you have open threats to Ambassador Sanjay Verma, the ambassador in Ottawa, and the demand they have made is to try and asking them to shut down the embassy, and Trudeau has nothing to say. And for 48 hours, nobody in New Delhi has engaged with him. That's the cold shoulder that he's got, and I think the clear message that he's got, and no reason, no surprises that in the Canadian media and from the opposition, he's not only being called names, he's also, it's caused a huge embarrassment for him. And let's not forget, only twice in Canada's history has there been an emergency. One under Justin Trudeau, because he couldn't handle the farmer protests and the protests that happened, and he had too much to say when the protests were happening in our country. And second, in the past by his father, and that was to prevent the secession of Quebec. So if his own family had a position against secessionist agencies, and that's where they drew the lines on freedom of speech, then why is it that those lines are not being drawn when somebody is talking about breaking India? That question remains, and there is a history to it, and it's a sequential order. Intelligence agencies and the Indian government firmly believes Trudeau knows everything, and he's not doing anything about it.
He's turning a blind eye and a deaf ear on purpose. That's really the message. But there's nothing left to chance. The Indian Prime Minister has also, in as many words, raised it with Justin Trudeau. Anand, thank you so much for that. Though Pathikrit Payne joining us on this broadcast as well as security analyst for his perspective. Pathikrit, like we've been discussing, the kind of free run that pro-Khalistani sympathizers, pro-Khalistani elements get in Canada is an open secret. The fact that Justin Trudeau is doing this for his political compulsions is also no secret. How do we move forward then?
Well, frankly speaking, I stated earlier in one of the another channel is that, Canada as a country under Trudeau has become so strategically irrelevant and insignificant that even if you want to take a countermeasure, it's very difficult. Canada as a country, I think the people of Canada will have to take a decision. It is, here is a leader who is one of the G7 members. Whichever country he goes to, he gets snubbed. And so it isn't about India. It is anywhere he goes, the kind of policies that he has come up with, the kind of things that he has allowed. I mean, is it that he thinks that whatever he can do against India for his own vote bank imperatives, it's acceptable to the rest of the world? I mean, you have organizations coming up with protest over there with photographs of Indian diplomats and with threats of literally threats of assassination. You have protests being done by elements over there with secessionist agenda, with photographs of people who have been responsible for bombing and destroying planes in which Canadians also died. And he tells us what freedom of expression and what freedom of speech is. See, the issue of Quebec is something that is very sensitive to Canada. I'm very happy to see there are think tanks in India which would do programs on that and allow that kind of protest to happen, because let the people of Canada, let the government of Canada especially understand what it feels when another country allows and foments secessionist movements against your own country. I mean, can Canadian government afford and dare to allow Al-Qaeda to do protest in the street of Canada against American government? He knows the consequences. So for long, there was this presumption that anything can be done against India and it will be a new normal. But I think the government of India has taken a strong stand, and Trudeau doesn't understand how much the Sikh community in India is respected. Trudeau doesn't understand the whole culture of India, of syncretic culture, in which, when compared to the proportion of the population, the number of people from the Sikh community who are part of the Indian armed forces, he doesn't understand these things. What narrative he is building over there, I think eventually there is not an iota of chance of any, Khalistan forming in India. But there's a strong possibility tomorrow that there is a Khalistan movement will be created in Canada itself for disintegration of Canada and creating a separate country within Canada itself. So I think Trudeau is a problem not for the rest of the world alone, but for Canada itself. Because there's a difference between allowing democratic protest, and India is an epitome of democratic protest. We live with that. We breathe with that. But there's a difference between that and allowing a secessionist movement to happen and, allowing on fomenting civil unrest and putting up terrorists as icons. This is disturbing. This is not just this is not just against, the concept of sovereignty. It is disturbing. And this kind of pseudo-liberal wokeism will destroy Canada unless they wake up to the reality of what he is doing in the name of politics.
Absolutely. It's domestic compulsions for, perhaps political domestic compulsions for the Canadian Prime Minister, but it should not come at the cost of isolation globally at the hands of India. That's something that the Trudeau administration and politicians across the board in Canada must think about. But Pathikrit Payne, thank you so much for speaking with us here on CNN News 18. Now, India has made it very, very clear that there's going to be zero tolerance for these kind of acts that take place on a routine basis in Canada. In fact, when the two leaders met here on the sidelines of G20, Prime Minister Modi made it very, very clear what India's stand was. In fact, Justin Trudeau, right after the G20 summit, came out and gave a statement. He said that we believe in the freedom of speech, to which India made it clear that this is not freedom of speech. The kind of referendums that are held there, the rallies that we see there, this is promoting anti-India sentiment. It's secessionism, and that needs to stop. Justin Trudeau then said that we will push back against hatred. Yes, we believe in free speech, but hatred will not be allowed. look at that statement and look what happened just a few hours after he said that. There was a referendum that was being held in Canada there, which is why India said that this is not about free speech, this is about violence that's taking place against the Indian community, the threats that Indian diplomats there are now facing. Justin Trudeau then went on to say that this is not what Canada represents. This is only actions of a few, and Canada as a whole is not responsible. The Indian community, though, is threatened there, which is why the Indian side said, and Prime Minister Modi said, that this has to be an issue that Canada deals with. It can't be attributed to an actions of few, because unfortunately for Justin Trudeau and his administration, they haven't been able to contain this. Justin Trudeau then went on to say that we believe in the rule of law and action will be taken. But where is this action is what India is asking. India then reminded Justin Trudeau, and the Prime Minister reminded the Canadian Prime Minister, that our ties are anchored in this respect of law, and it's our ties that are at the center of this entire issue. That is at stake if you do not act. That was a clear message that the Indian Prime Minister sent out. Let's now listen in, or take a look, in fact, as to what exactly Justin Trudeau said after the G20 meeting and after his meeting with the Indian Prime Minister. Let's also hope that once he lands in Canada, he ensures his words translate into action. But listen in to what Justin Trudeau had to say.
They both came up over the years with Prime Minister Modi. We've had many conversations on both of those issues. Obviously, Canada will always defend freedom of expression, freedom of conscience, freedom of peaceful protest. That's something that's extremely important to us. At the same time as we're always there to prevent violence, to push back against hatred. I think on the issue of the community, it's important to remember that the actions of the few do not represent the entire community or Canada. The flip side of it, we also highlighted the importance of respecting the rule of law, and we did talk about foreign interference.
But that is time for a quick break here on this edition of Nation at 5. But there's lots lined up for you on the other side, including a super exclusive news break and a super exclusive interview with the man behind the secret of the Delhi Declaration, and that is the External Affairs Minister, on the success story of G20. Do stay tuned for that.
समाज में
5 crores. Now the question is, why the inflated cost? Remember, at the very same time, you have the Bengaluru developmental minister who is saying that there are no sufficient funds for new developmental works. When such is the financial state, why the inflated cost for such precast toilets, high-end precast toilets that are being proposed and built? And are these toilets worth it, is the question that is being raised. And at the very same time, the second reason, the main reason why such project is undertaken, as claimed by the BBMP, is that these can be built at a short span of time. Now, if you take a look at the phase 1 that was being built, around only 10 toilets, precast toilets, were constructed out of the 25 proposed toilets, and it took around 2 years for them. It was started in the March 2021 and is not yet complete. And now they have proposed 46 new precast toilets. If it doesn't complete this particular 46 new toilets in the stipulated time, once again the question is being raised. The main reason why the short span time, the main reason why it was chosen is not being fulfilled yet. So what's the need for such precast toilets is the question that is being raised by the citizens of Bengaluru. What is seen as a high-end luxury project undertaken by the BBMP, the Bengaluru Civic Agency is constructing around 46 precast high-end toilets across the IT city with a whopping cost of 281 crore, with each precast toilet costing around 4 to 5 crores. Now behind me is one such precast toilet that was proposed and built by the BBMP under phase 1. So it comprises of various features such as providing dry and clean toilets, sensor based flushing, solar powered lights, and also ample ventilation. So these are the features that make up these high-end precast toilets proposed and built by the BBMP under phase 1. Right now the BBMP has proposed to construct 46 such new toilets, new precast toilets, which cost around 281 crore. So let's go inside and check what are the features of these high-end precast toilets that cost around, that makes each toilet cost around 6 crores, around 4 to 5 to 6 crores. So it comprises of a sensor based flushing. So you have the sensor here. So usually the other BBMP toilets have a push button water feature. Now this has a sensor based flushing, so that's one of the feature. And the phase 2 of this particular high-end precast toilet comprised of water saving taps, but this is built under phase 1 and it's not in a good condition, not maintained in a good condition. The BBMP says that in the second phase, the high-end precast toilets comprise of water-saving tap fixtures, and this is a particular precast toilet is also said to be solar-powered. You have the solar-powered lights that are fixated there, and what the BBMP claims is also that it provides ample amount of ventilation. It doesn't look like it has a ample amount of ventilation here, except the fact that there are just 2 to 3 glass windows that have been placed here. So these are the features. Now this particular precast toilet is being built under the phase 1. In phase 2 now the BBMP is proposing to build around 46 toilets which cost around 281 crore, so that which I mentioned earlier. So now what's under question is the inflated cost of this particular proposed precast toilets that are being built. Now as I mentioned, under phase 2 46 new precast toilets are going to be built and the total cost will be around 281 crores, which is equal to that of a luxury apartment. Now each toilet will cost around 4 to 5 crores. Now the question is why the inflated cost? Remember, at the very same time you have the Bengaluru developmental minister who is saying that there are no sufficient funds for new developmental works. When such is the financial state, why the inflated cost for such precast toilets, high-end precast toilets that are being proposed and built, and are these toilets worth it, is the question that is being raised. And at the very same time, the second reason, the main reason why such project is undertaken as claimed by the BBMP is that these can be built at a short span of time. Now if you take a look at the phase 1 that was being built, around only 10 toilets, precast toilets were constructed out of the 25 proposed toilets, and it took around 2 years for them. It was started in the March 2021 and is not yet complete, and now they have proposed 46 new precast toilets. If it doesn't complete this particular 46 new toilets in the stipulated time, once again the question is being raised. The main reason why the short span time, the main reason why it was chosen is not being fulfilled yet. So what's the need for such precast toilets is the question that is being raised by the citizens of Bengaluru. What is seen as a high-end luxury project undertaken by the BBMP, the Bengaluru Civic Agency is constructing around 46 precast high-end toilets across the IT city with a whopping cost of 281 crore, with each precast toilet costing around 4 to 5 crores. Now behind me is one such precast toilet that was proposed and built by the BBMP under phase 1. So it comprises of various features such as providing dry and clean toilets, sensor based flushing, solar powered lights, and also ample ventilation. So these are the features that make up these high-end precast toilets proposed and built by the BBMP under phase 1. Right now the BBMP has proposed to construct 46 such new toilets, new precast toilets, which cost around 281 crore. So let's go inside and check what are the features of these high-end precast toilets that cost around, that makes each toilet cost around 6 crores, around 4 to 5 to 6 crores. So it comprises of a sensor based flushing. So you have the sensor here. So usually the other BBMP toilets have a push button water feature. Now this has a sensor based flushing, so that's one of the feature. And the phase 2 of this particular high-end precast toilet comprised of water saving taps, but this is built under phase 1 and it's not in a good condition, not maintained in a good condition. The BBMP says that in the second phase, the high-end precast toilets comprise of water-saving tap fixtures, and this is a particular precast toilet is also said to be solar-powered. You have the solar-powered lights that are fixated there, and what the BBMP claims is also that it provides ample amount of ventilation. It doesn't look like it has a ample amount of ventilation here, except the fact that there are just 2 to 3 glass windows that have been placed here. So these are the features. Now this particular precast toilet is being built under the phase 1. In phase 2 now the BBMP is proposing to build around 46 toilets which cost around 281 crore, so that which I mentioned earlier. So now what's under question is the inflated cost of this particular proposed precast toilets that are being built. Now as I mentioned, under phase 2 46 new precast toilets are going to be built, and the total cost will be around 281 crores, which is equal.
Watching Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde, and the fire over the Sanatan Dharma comment that Udhayanidhi Stalin made a few days ago continues to brew. In fact, now we have other members of the DMK lining up to make similar comments. We had a minister of the DMK, Minister of the State, K. Ponmudi, at the very same stage, make another comment similar to what Udhayanidhi Stalin had said. Today then, A. Raja, former UPA minister, DMK leader, coming out to say that it is a menace. Sanatan Dharma is the menace that ills our society. This, of course, has triggered a massive storm, and it's not just the BJP that has raked up this issue. Many within the India opposition bloc are also jittery over the kind of comments that are coming to the fore from the DMK. But listen in to the commentary first, and then we'll take you through the reactions.
பத்திரிகைகளின் மூலமாக ஊடகங்களின் மூலமாக நம்முடைய இந்த சனாதன எதிர்ப்பு கொள்கையை இந்தியா என்ற இங்கே எல்லாம் நண்பர்களும் சொல்லிவிட்டார்கள். இந்த இந்தியா என்பது ஒரு சனாதன கொள்கைக்கு எதிர்ப்பாக உருவாக்கப்பட்டிருக்கிற கூட்டணி தான் இந்தியா. இதற்குள் கருத்து வேறுபாடுகள் இருக்கலாம், ஆனால் இந்த சனாதனத்தை எதிர்க்க வேண்டும் என்பதிலே யாருக்கும் எந்த வேறுபட்ட கருத்தும் இல்லை. இதில் இருப்பவர்கள் எல்லாம் சமத்துவத்தை உருவாக்க வேண்டும், மத சிறுபான்மை சமுதாயத்தை காப்பாற்ற வேண்டும், ஆண் பெண் சமத்துவத்தை காப்பாற்ற வேண்டும், இந்த சமூக சிந்தனையோடு இந்த இயக்கத்தை உருவாக்க வேண்டும் என்பதுதான் இன்று 26 கட்சிகள் உருவாகி இருக்கிற இந்த இந்தியா கூட்டணியுடைய நோக்கம். அவர்கள் வந்திருக்கிற நீங்கள் எல்லாம் நாம் என்னதான் சமூகத்திலே நாம் இவ்வளவு செஞ்சாலும் அரசியல்ல நாம் வெற்றி பெற்று அங்க உட்கார்ந்தாதான் இதெல்லாம் செய்ய முடியும்.
India is the reason for the global disease in the name of caste, dividing the people on the caste line, dividing the people on the economic line by using the caste. Caste cannot be used only for social evil. It depends upon the economic evil also. Those who are living Indians in other countries also propagating caste in the name of Hindu religion. So Hindu religion is a biggest menace not only to India, now it is a menace to the entire world. India is the reason for the global disease in the name of caste, dividing the people on the caste line, dividing the people on the economic line by using the caste. Caste cannot be used only for social evil. It depends upon the economic evil also. Those who are living Indians in other countries also propagating caste in the name of Hindu religion. So Hindu religion is a biggest menace not only to India, now it is a menace to the entire world. India is the reason for the global disease in the name of caste, dividing the people on the caste line, dividing the people on the economic line by using the caste. Caste cannot be used only for social evil. It depends upon the economic evil also. Those who are living Indians in other countries also propagating caste in the name of Hindu religion.
Hindu religion is a menace that ills our society, that ills India, says A. Raja of the DMK. And the DMK now coming out to defend the kind of comments that have come to the fore from many within the party. We don't know the full context of what A. Raja said, says the DMK. That's their defense. And as far as what the Minister Ponmudi had to say about the India opposition bloc coming together for exactly this, listen in to what the DMK's defense is.
DMK MP A. Raja's video. Sources tell us it was taken 1 year ago. In that A. Raja is seen saying that Hindu religion is a menace. How do you respond to this statement?
I don't know when he spoke, where he spoke, and in what context he had spoke. How can I suddenly, recently I don't think he had spoken like that. It is out of context, maybe it is presented out of context now. Annamalai is also a slave to that setup. He might speak anything.
K. Ponmudi, Minister K. Ponmudi's recent statement that India alliance was formed only to oppose Sanatana Dharma. How do you see these?
They would said it differently. India alliance is formed only to preserve secularism in the country. It is not against any dharma. But they are there to preserve this India's secularism, which the BJP is opposed to.
Purnima, my colleague, now joining us live, getting us more inputs and perspective on this. Now, Purnima, the DMK, they're defending all of its leaders of the comments that they've made for over Sanatan Dharma. But how are they going to defend this when they sit down with their India alliance partners? One of those meetings is going to happen tomorrow.
Absolutely, that's one challenge and one tricky situation going forward for the opposition parties, because DMK over the last 8 days has time and again reiterated its stance, the leader's stance, that yes, we will continue to oppose Sanatana Dharma, even if that means that the Congress is not okay with the statement made by the DMK, which is why Udhayanidhi Stalin said every party has its own views and beliefs, and that no one should force the other party to make statements or to in fact support the statements made by a particular party. That's the defense that's coming in from the DMK. But this is going to be a challenge, because DMK so far has been one of the front runners in trying to unite the opposition, because they've been a loyal ally of the Congress. The state Congress leaders, including Karti Chidambaram, President K.S. Arigri, have come out in support of Udhayanidhi, but nationally the Congress so far has distanced itself, and other national parties being part of the INDI alliance has made it clear that they will not hurt the sentiments of a particular religion, and they've also requested DMK to refrain from making these statements. However, DMK time and again remains defiant, and tomorrow's meeting is going to be crucial, because this of course could be one of the points discussed, considering that Congress and some of the other national parties including AAP are not happy with the statements made by DMK. Not one leader, there have been 3-4 videos that have been going viral over the last 1 week on Sanatana Dharma and also anti-Hindu remarks. So these of course would be a challenge for the DMK and the other national parties when they meet tomorrow in the national capital. Right. DMK continues to maintain that all is well as far as opposition unity is concerned.
On the face of it, they may seem to think that all is well, but it is going to be interesting to see what happens when they all sit down, if there are fireworks that come out of it. The BJP, though, is upping the ante only further. It is only going to escalate the attack on the DMK. They've already sought the dismissal of several ministers. Now, perhaps K. Ponmudi is added in that list as well. Let's listen in to some of those reactions that are coming in.
एनडीए के खिलाफ हैं हम, निश्चित तौर से इस सरकार के खिलाफ हैं। इस सरकार को हटाने के लिए इंडिया बना है, इस सरकार की गलत नीतियों को बनाने के लिए इंडिया बना है। किसी एक नेता या किसी एक आदमी के खिलाफ नहीं है, हम उन नीतियों के खिलाफ हैं जिन नीतियों को लेकर भारतीय जनता पार्टी और आरएसएस इस देश के अंदर सत्ता चला रही है। जिस तरीके से आरएसएस के पूरी विचारधारा को देश के अंदर लागू किया जा रहा है, थोपा जा रहा है, इंडिया उसके खिलाफ बना है।
अब तो ये स्पष्ट हो चुका है पूर्ण तरीके से कि इंडी गठबंधन का जन्म ही हुआ है सनातन धर्म के विरोध में, उससे लड़ने के लिए, उसे खत्म करने के लिए। ये मैं नहीं कह रहा, डीएमके के मंत्री पोनमुडी कह रहे हैं। और सोचिए ना, मुंबई की मीटिंग के बाद एक किस प्रकार का वक्तव्य इंडी गठबंधन से आया है। उदयनिधि स्टालिन कहते हैं सनातन की समाप्ति करनी चाहिए। प्रियंक खड़गे कांग्रेस पार्टी इस बयान को जायज ठहराती है, कहती है कि सनातन धर्म एक बीमारी की तरह है। ए राजा और उसकी तुलना HIV से करते हैं। किस प्रकार से जी परमेश्वर जी ने जाकर कहा कि हिंदू का जन्म कहां हुआ है, इस पर वो सवाल निशान खड़े करते हैं।
हमें ना उनसे राष्ट्रवाद पे सर्टिफिकेट चाहिए और ना धर्म पे सर्टिफिकेट चाहिए। हम सर्वधर्म समभाव में यकीन रखते हैं। हमारी अलायंस इसलिए साथ आई है क्योंकि हम संविधान में यकीन रखते हैं। उन लोगों को आईना दिखाते हुए ये बात जरूर पूछना चाहती हूँ कि जिस धर्म में नारी को देवी की उपाधि दी गई है, वहां पर 2 महिलाओं को नंगा घुमाया गया, उन्होंने कुछ नहीं किया। उन लोगों से पूछना चाहती हूँ, दैहिक दैविक भौतिक तापा राम राज नहीं कहूँ, व्यापा में गरीबों को, किसानों को, मजदूरों को प्रताड़ित किया जाता है, इसके बारे में वो क्या कहेंगे। वो लोग ढोंगी हैं, उनसे मुझे कोई सर्टिफिकेट नहीं चाहिए।
जो वहां के शिक्षा मंत्री ने कहा है वो एक सच्चाई है, और इनका हिडन एजेंडा है सनातन धर्म का विरोध करके वोट बैंक की पॉलिटिक्स करना। और इस पूरी प्रक्रिया में ये लोग बहुत दिन से लगे हुए हैं। खड़गे जी ने भी तो सनातन का विरोध किया था ना, जो उनके सम्मानीय अध्यक्ष हैं। क्या उन्होंने अपने पुत्र के बारे में कोई टिप्पणी किया? मैं कांग्रेस पार्टी से पूछता हूं और इस गठबंधन से पूछता हूं, क्या किसी और आस्था के देवों का आलोचना करने का इनका अधिकार है? इनकी हिम्मत है? कर पाएंगे क्या ये? हम सभी आस्थाओं का सम्मान करते हैं, सभी आस्थाओं के जो ईश्वर हैं, जिनको मानते हैं, हम सबों का सम्मान करते हैं.
Purnima continues to be with us on this big controversy that is brewing there down south. It is going to have repercussions up north as well when the opposition leaders sit down to have that conversation. But as far as MK Stalin, the DMK strategy goes, they feel like there's absolutely no resistance to this kind of comments that have been made by the DMK within the state of Tamil Nadu, Purnima, isn't it? Which is why they are not backing down.
Absolutely. In Tamil Nadu, it's only going to help the DMK is what political analysts believe, which is why, interestingly, DMK's own allies, including the Congress state leaders, have openly backed Udhayanidhi Stalin and the DMK. And if you look at BJP's own ally, the AIA-DMK, so far they've not come out opposing what Udhayanidhi said. They've completely remained silent on the issue because in Tamil Nadu, it's all about Dravidian movement, and opposing Sanatan Dharma is not something new because this is what the DMK has stood for. This is what they've always opposed. So therefore, it will only help the DMK is what political analysts believe. But if you look at pan-India, it is going to be challenging for Congress and other national parties, which is why not many parties have come out in support of Udhayanidhi Stalin. However, in the run-up to 2024, DMK making it clear that they will continue to speak against Sanatana Dharma, even if that means it's going to cost the Congress dear. The DMK continues to remain defiant. We'll have to see how the talks between the two allies pan out tomorrow, as well as with other national parties. All eyes on tomorrow's meeting in the national capital.
And if there is a shift in strategy of the DMK after tomorrow's meeting, do keep a track of that, Purnima. But for the moment, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. We are shifting focus now to some more breaking news that's coming in. And this is TMC Member of Parliament, Nusrat Jahan, who was questioned by the Enforcement Directorate. She's just about left the ED office, is what we're learning. She was questioned in the Kolkata flax sale case. She was accused of forgery, of fraud, and of duping several thousand people. Listen in to what she has to say as she exited the ED office. Komalika, my colleague, now joining us, getting us more details. Komalika, it's been about a 5-hour questioning of Nusrat Jahan. She's exited the ED office now, but has she been called again? Do we have any details of what transpired in that questioning?
So right now, there is no information that she will be called again or not. But what she has said while she was coming out, she said that whatever question has been asked to her, she has answered that, and also she has submitted a lot of documents. She entered around before 11 o'clock today, and she came with heavy documents with her. And what we came to know that we are coming to know from the ED sources is that what was the origin of her flat money? That was questioned. How she is involved with that company? When did she resign from that company, which is said to have frauded a couple of people, promising them of giving flats? So all those questions were asked to her. Most the questioning, the interrogation took place near about 5 hours. She entered around before 11, and now she just got out a couple of minutes ago. So it was clearly that what is her relation with this company, which has frauded few people. That questioning took place.
Right, Komalika. For the moment, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. But do keep a track if this becomes political. For now, shifting focus to more breaking news that's coming in, and that is over the arrest of Chandrababu Naidu in Andhra Pradesh. We're now learning that after the special ACB court denied his request for house arrest, now they have decided to move the Andhra High Court challenging his arrest in itself. Remember, he was arrested in the wee hours of Saturday morning. This was in the skill development case. The hearing in this issue in the matter in the Andhra Pradesh High Court is going to take place tomorrow. That's the latest that we are gathering. Ananya, my colleague, getting us more details of what exactly is to be expected tomorrow. Yes, Ananya.
Well, yes, Poonam, various developments are now taking place, and as far as the legal position at this point of time is concerned,
the house arrest petition of Chandrababu Naidu, wherein he was seeking that instead of keeping him inside the jail, he should be kept under house arrest. That has now been turned down by the court very, very clearly, but for a sole reason that, the advocate for, in fact, Chandrababu Naidu could not convince the court as to why the particular security that they are seeking to assail or they are seeking is something that could not be provided in the jail. And if so, the jail authorities have been asked to beef up the security, if at all they were not at the marks at that particular standard. Now, with regards to the other part of the case, with regards to the interrogation and things, the plea that has been filed by the ACB for interrogating, in fact, Chandrababu Naidu and the police custody was sought for 5 days. The same has been deferred for tomorrow because the petitioner side, that is Chandrababu Naidu's side, could not file a reply to it, and the same has now been adjourned, and the matter would be taken up tomorrow. Now, the Chandrababu Naidu's legal team has also now knocked the doors of, in fact, the Andhra Pradesh High Court, seeking a quashing of the whole case that is against Chandrababu Naidu. And not only this, they have also sought an interim relief with regards to bail being granted to Chandrababu Naidu, and the hearing is to take place in this particular matter tomorrow. How well does it play out? Because we've seen how the remand papers have been, how, in fact, vehemently the ACB has contended before the court that, he is somebody who is a part and parcel of this scam. In fact, he was at the helm of this particular scam that has taken place in the state of Andhra Pradesh. In fact, he was also a beneficiary, not only him, but his family members and TDP workers too were, in fact, a beneficiary of this particular scam and the money that has been there. He was the one who has misappropriated almost around 3,821 crores of rupees. So how well does it play up is something that we'll have to wait and watch for now. The matter has reached the higher court. Also, how well the High Court would be treating Chandrababu Naidu and his petition is something that will be seen tomorrow when the matter comes up before it.
Right, do keep a track of that, Ananya. But for the moment, thank you so much for getting us the latest. Chandrababu Naidu, no respite there coming to the fore for him, and will remain in judicial custody for another few days until there is a respite that he and his legal counsel hopes from the High Court tomorrow. On that note, slipping into a quick break here on this edition of Nation at 5. Back in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Pradhan Mantri apartment. Now, each toilet will cost around 4 to 5 crores. Now, the question is why the inflated cost? Remember, at the very same time, you have the Bengaluru Developmental Minister who is saying that there are no sufficient funds for new developmental works. When such is the financial state, why the inflated cost for such precast toilets, high-end precast toilets that are being proposed and built? And are these toilets worth it is the question that is being raised. And at the very same time, the second reason, the main reason why such project is undertaken as claimed by the BBMP is that these can be built at a short span of time. Now, if you take a look at the phase 1 that was being built, around only 10 toilets, precast toilets were constructed out of the 25 proposed toilets, and it took around 2 years for them. It was started in the March 2021 and is not yet complete. And now they have proposed 46 new precast toilets. If it doesn't complete this particular 46 new toilets in the stipulated time, once again the question is being raised. The main reason why the short span time, the main reason why it was chosen is not being fulfilled yet. So what's the need for such precast toilets is the question that is being raised by the citizens of Bengaluru. What is seen as a high-end luxury project undertaken by the BBMP, the Bengaluru Civic Agency is constructing around 46 precast high-end toilets across the IT city with a opening cost of 281 crore, with each precast toilet costing around 4 to 5 crores. Now behind me is one such precast toilet that was proposed and built by the BBMP under phase 1. So it comprises of various features such as providing dry and clean toilets, sensor based flushing, solar powered lights, and also ample ventilation. So these are the features that make up this high-end precast toilets proposed and built by the BBMP under phase 1. Right now the BBMP has proposed to construct 46 such new toilets, new precast toilets, which cost around 281 crore. So let's go inside and check what are the features of these high-end precast toilets that cost around that makes each toilet cost around 6 crores, around 4 to 5 to 6 crores. So it comprises of a sensor-based flushing. So you have the sensor here. So usually the other BBMP toilets have a push button water feature. Now this has a sensor based flushing, so that's one of the feature. And the phase 2 of this particular high-end precast toilet comprise of water saving taps, but this is built under phase 1 and it's not in a good condition, not maintained in a good condition. The BBMP says that in the second phase, the high-end precast toilets comprise of water-saving tap fixtures, and this is a particular precast toilet is also said to be solar-powered. You have the solar-powered lights that are fixated there, and what the BBMP claims is also that it provides ample amount of ventilation. It doesn't look like it has a ample amount of ventilation here, except the fact that there are just 2 to 3 glass windows that have been placed here. So these are the features. Now this particular precast toilet is being built under the phase 1. In phase 2 now the BBMP is proposing to build around 46 toilets which cost around 281 crores, so that which I mentioned earlier. So now what's under question is the inflated cost of this particular proposed precast toilets that are being built. Now as I mentioned, under phase 2 46 new precast toilets are going to be built and the total cost will be around 281 crores, which is equal to that of a luxury apartment. Now each toilet will cost around 4 to 5 crores. Now the question is why the inflated cost? Remember, at the very same time you have the Bengaluru developmental minister who is saying that there are no sufficient funds for new developmental works. When such is the financial state, why the inflated cost for such precast toilets, high-end precast toilets that are being proposed and built, and are these toilets worth it, is the question that is being raised. And at the very same time, the second reason, the main reason why such project is undertaken as claimed by the BBMP is that these can be built at a short span of time. Now if you take a look at the phase 1 that was being built, around only 10 toilets, precast toilets were constructed out of the 25 proposed toilets, and it took around 2 years for them. It was started in the March 2021 and is not yet complete. And now they have proposed 46 new precast toilets. If it doesn't complete this particular 46 new toilets in the stipulated time, once again the question is being raised. The main reason why the short span time, the main reason why it was chosen is not being fulfilled yet. So what's the need for such precast toilets is the question that is being raised by the citizens of Bengaluru. What is seen as a high-end luxury project undertaken by the BBMP, the Bengaluru Civic Agency is constructing around 46 precast high-end toilets across the IT city with a whopping cost of 281 crore, with each precast toilet costing around 4 to 5 crores. Now behind me is one such precast toilet that was proposed and built by the BBMP under phase 1. So it comprises of various features such as providing dry and clean toilets, sensor based flushing, solar powered lights, and also ample ventilation. So these are the features that make up this high end precast toilets proposed and built by the BBMP under phase 1. Right now the BBMP has proposed to construct 46 such new toilets, new precast toilets, which cost around 281 crore. So let's go inside and check what are the features of these high-end precast toilets that cost around that makes each toilet cost around 6 crores, around 4 to 5 to 6 crores. So it comprises of a sensor-based flushing. So you have the sensor here. So usually the other BBMP toilets have a push button water feature. Now this has a sensor based flushing, so that's one of the feature. And the phase 2 of this particular high-end precast toilet comprise of water saving taps, but this is built under phase 1 and it's not in a good condition, not maintained in a good condition. The BBMP says that in the second phase, the high-end precast toilets comprise of water-saving tap fixtures, and this is a particular precast toilet is also said to be solar-powered. You have the solar-powered lights that are fixated there, and what the BBMP claims is also that it provides ample amount of ventilation. It doesn't look like it has a ample amount of ventilation here, except the fact that there are just 2 to 3 glass windows that have been placed here. So these are the features. Now this particular precast toilet is being built under the phase 1. In phase 2 now the BBMP is proposing to build around 46 toilets which cost around 281 crores, so that which I mentioned earlier. So now what's under question is the inflated cost of this particular proposed precast toilets that are being built. Now as I mentioned, under phase 2 46 new precast toilets are going to be built, and the total cost will be around 281 crores, which is equal to that of a luxury.
Welcome back. You're watching Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. There's breaking news that's now coming in from Kerala, where we're given to understand that 2 cases of Nipa virus have now come to the fore. Unfortunately, both of those have succumbed to the virus. 2 deaths have been reported. A team from the Health Ministry from the centre has also reached the state of Kerala to provide all assistance, to also take into account of how this can be mitigated in the future. We're given to understand that there are 4 suspected patients as well. Their samples have now been sent to NIV Pune. Sharon, my colleague, now joining us, getting us more details. Now, Sharon, unfortunately for Kerala, Nipa virus and its outbreak is not new. We've seen something similar happen in 2018 and 2021 as well, which is why the centre has already rushed a team there to take stock of the situation.
Well, that is right. Like you mentioned, that this is not something new for Kerala, because when we talk about Nipah virus cases, it has in fact been reported for the first time in Kozhikode itself in 2018 and 2021. And once again, there have been 2 cases, 2 deaths that has in fact happened due to Nipah virus, and once again in Kozhikode itself. So, of course, that is a case of more research. That is what the Health Ministry has been saying, that there are in fact, significant research that is being done, that why the cases are being reported from Kozhikode itself. But as of now, the situation is that the Health Ministry has sent a team to assist the State Health Minister for any kind of assistance and any kind of guidance that is needed from the Health Ministry is being provided to the state, because there are more such 4 cases, suspected cases of Nipah virus. Their sample has been sent to NIV Pune. Their reports have been awaited. But at the same time, it becomes very important that all the other people who are in touch with these people, with the 2 cases of Nipah virus, they need to be isolated, and the proper protocol needs to be followed so that Nipah virus doesn't spread on from here. So a team has been sent by the Health Ministry, and the result of the 4 suspected cases, the sample that has been sent to NIV Pune is still awaited. We have to wait to know what is really the situation on ground.
Right, Sharon. For the moment, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. Shifting focus now to the latest flashpoint between the opposition and the central government. This is over the special parliament session and the uniforms that are going to be given to some of the legislative staff workers there. That uniform is going to have symbol of a lotus, is what we're given to understand, and that is now giving ammunition to the opposition. It was the Congress that raised objections first. Now we have the NCP as well, who has come out and raised questions over this particular uniform that is going to be in place for some of the staff workers, some of the employees at the new Parliament building when the special session takes place there. Let's take a look at what the NCP has now come out and said. This is a tweet that has been put out by Clyde Crasto of the NCP, where he says, by printing the lotus symbol on uniforms of Parliament staff, the BJP is trying to turn our temple of democracy into a political arena. BJP is misusing the Parliament for personal propaganda. The August House belongs to the people of India and not a political party. That's the charge that's coming to the fore from the NCP. Vinaya, my colleague, now joining us, getting us more details on this. Vinaya, this seems to be the latest flashpoint as far as the special session is concerned. We've seen the Congress first raise objections, now the NCP chiming in as well.
Well, absolutely. Now, this is the national spokesperson of NCP, Sharad Pawar faction, which has taken this stance, saying that uniforms should not have any political symbols. And that is why now NCP, Sharad Pawar faction, taking a public stance, saying that putting a lotus on the uniforms of the parliamentary staff is nothing but trying to turn the temple of democracy into a political arena. Now, remember, it was the Congress which had first raised, an issue with respect to this, opposing the move that has been proposed by the government. And now it is the NCP, Sharad Pawar faction, which has taken this stance. The NCP says that this is something that goes beyond political levels, political fields, and that is why instead of turning the uniforms into a political issue, they have to be neutral and they have to be above all the politics. And that is why now the NCP has taken this stance, saying that lotus symbols should not be put on the uniforms of parliamentary staff, and that it is a move that the NCP Sharad Pawar faction will continue to oppose. Clyde Castro, who is the national spokesperson of NCP Sharad Pawar faction, has also gone ahead to say the August House belongs to the people of India, not to a political party. So battle lines drawn there. After Congress, it is now the NCP which has slammed the government over this.
Right. Right, Vinaya, thank you so much for getting us the latest on that. Do keep a track of the other political reactions that trickle in. Before now, shifting focus, and the wait is over for all the loyal users and fans of Apple. And for those who perhaps want to switch, Apple, the iPhone 15 is going to be launched in a few hours from now. What's in store? What's to expect? Take a look.
Apple will be launching its new line of iPhones on September 12 at the Wanderlust event. Similar to every iPhone event, this year's is also subject to the rumor mill. Most of the new iPhone features have been leaked extensively. But what we have to wait for is the official pricing. There's both good and bad news when it comes to pricing. Here we'll list the price expectations of the upcoming iPhone 15 series. Similar to yesterday's iPhones, we get two standard iPhone models and two Pro models, which will sell at a premium compared to the non-Pro models. Apple will be offering 4 new models: iPhone 15, iPhone 15 Plus, iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max. Let's start with the good news. Apple may retain the pricing from last year's non-Pro model. The phones started at a price of $999 in US. For Indian buyers, the starting price was set at Rs 79,900 for the base model. The new iPhone 15 Plus is expected to be priced at Rs 89,900. The iPhone 15 standard models are expected to get some considerable upgrades. The new iPhone 15 is expected to get rid of the notch that has been around since the iPhone 10 series. It will be replaced by the dynamic island introduced for the first time in last year's model. This will increase the screen real estate for users. The bezel size is also expected to get slimmer. Another distant rumor is that Apple will be upgrading the primary camera from 12MP to 48MP. The iPhone 15 will now be powered by the A16 Bionic chipset, which powered last year's Pro models. Both non-Pro and Pro models are also expected to get the USB Type-C port instead of Lightning cable. The Pro models are getting some major upgrades which will translate to higher prices. The iPhone 15 Pro is expected to get a $100 price bump. Last year the iPhone 14 Pro was launched at $999 in the US, and this year that price might go up to $1,099. In India, the iPhone 14 Pro was made available at Rs 1,29,900. Indian buyers can expect at least a price bump of Rs 10,000. iPhone 15 Pro Max will most likely get an even bigger price hike. The Pro Max model is expected to get more expensive by $200. This might take the launch price to $1,299. Indian buyers will also see a substantial price hike from last year's model, which started at Rs 1,39,900. Talking about specifications, the iPhone 15 Pro and iPhone 15 Pro Max will be getting a new titanium frame, replacing the stainless steel. The use of titanium is expected to make the iPhone sturdier but lighter. In the camera department, the iPhone 15 Pro Max will be getting a periscope lens that will provide 5x to 6x optical zoom. It should be noted that the price hike estimates are sourced from various rumors from the past few months and are not official.
With that, it's a wrap from my side here on this edition of Nation at 5. But coming up next is the super exclusive with External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. Listen in to what he has to say about the G20 success story.
So the Delhi G20 has been a success, a resounding one at that, by every yardstick
that is imaginable. And one of the chief architects behind that success is now joining me, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar. Thank you very much. And many congratulations to you and your team.
Well, thank you very much.
For what has been hard work over the last 1 year plus. What does it feel like? Like scoring a test match 100?
Well, I don't know about that, but I think at one level, yes, there is a lot of satisfaction that what was a very high profile, very complex event logistically was pulled off. But I think more than that, it is also that at a very difficult time in the global political environment, we were able to actually get the 20 most important countries to actually reach a consensus on a crucial set of issues, which is very important, to set the directions of where the world's going to be going for the rest of the decade.
So, all the focus, of course, has been on the joint declaration, and 12 hours before the declaration was officially adopted, negotiators were still not sure whether they would arrive at it. So give us what was the inside story. How did it actually come through?
Well, I don't know about 12 hours. I can tell you it was much closer than that.
Much closer than 12 hours.
I mean, let me roll back here a bit. It was not that we thought a declaration wouldn't come out.
Okay.
But because I think, somewhere all of us, certainly, the team we had, Sherpa, myself, and I kept PM apprised from time to time what was happening. We had a sense eventually that we'll get there.
Okay.
But having said that, you have to get there.
Yes.
And what would happen is, it's like, oh, we have it nailed down, and then something else would happen, and then we'd say, no, somebody is bracketed. So it was never done till it's done, and that kept coming closer and closer and closer. So much so that even in the forenoon of that day,
on Saturday morning,
9th September, while session 1 was going on, we still had some issues to be nailed down. This was obviously, you could say at one level, a source of concern or tension or whatever it is. But again, for those of us who've done a lot of these things before, this is how big international events go, that it really goes down to the wire, and you've got to hold your nerve, you've got to make that last push, which is what we were doing even as people were arriving, even as between session 1 and session 2 we took a break. Even then we were still kind of
not over the line.
Well, we were trying to get everybody into confirming that they were comfortable with it. In some cases there were holds on certain issues, so it was a kind of a live action,
like a cricket match.
Yes, till the very end.
So you did mention in the press conference as well, the emerging bloc of countries, which is Indonesia, Brazil, South Africa, along with India, played a role in helping narrow down differences and finding a text that's acceptable to all. Can you elaborate on that role, and what may that mean, the coming together of this emerging bloc?
Well, there's some history to it. The history to it was that last year, Indonesia was the chair, the summit was in Bali, and the kind of pressures that we felt this time, Indonesia felt last time. What we all did, at least, and I can say this particularly for ourselves, was that we really kind of batted for Indonesia very, very strongly. I remember last year even going to Moscow to meet the Russians to discuss this. Now, this time around, I think that feeling was strong among a certain group of countries, and I think particularly the 4 back-to-back chairs, Indonesia, us, Brazil, South Africa, but a few others as well, that look, we all need to come together and persuade the others to find a reasonable middle ground. So at one level, this kind of diplomacy was going on, but bear in mind that finally it isn't just a textual fix. I mean, there were real political positions at stake here. So some of it therefore also depended very much on how did the countries feel about India. So the more we were able, I mean, if I were to broadly, let us say, classify them into three groups, those countries who were actively working with us, so we had to enthuse them to work with us. Those countries who had strong entrenched positions, so we had to make them understand that, look, we respect your position, but surely it's important for you that the Indian presidency succeeds, and therefore to some extent it was influenced by the nature of their relationship with India. And then there were some who whose good wishes were with us, but who are waiting for things to move. Now, to some extent, this is really where PM came in very strongly, which was, by going to Indonesia, I mean, which the Indonesians appreciated enormously. That, for someone who's, for where the visitors are arriving on the 8th, to be in Indonesia on the 7th, and just to go there, just to do that. I think it not only enthused, motivated Indonesia very strongly. I think it sent a very strong message to the others as well, that look, here are all of us standing by each other and working together. It also gave him an opportunity to talk to some of the others. Some of the others he spoke there, some of the others he spoke here, and in certain specific cases, based on the feedback from the Sherpa team, I actually went to PM and said, sir, could you please have a word with, country X or country Y, and which he did. So that's really, I mean, that last, I would say, 12 hours, 12 to 24 hours. But especially on the 9th itself, a lot of that happened, by his also intervening with the absolutely crucial people, because there were one or two
holdouts. So tell us about this, because there has been some criticism. Ukraine has said this on record, that they believe that the language on the Russia-Ukraine war has been diluted, that Russia has not been named directly. How would you respond to that, please?
See, it's like this. As you know, the conflict started last February. We've already had one G20 meeting. The G20 took a collective position out there. Now, the point is, we also all have to assess whether the purpose of a G20 gathering is to reiterate a position and make that like a some kind of immutable concept from which there should be no divergence, or whether we should update that issue and bring in further developments and also capture those as part of the concerns. So, you could say, for example, there's a $100 billion commitment which was made in Paris on climate change. So you could argue, well, every position therefore should only reiterate what it is, and we should not be discussing anything else. But we don't do that. We keep evolving the climate action position as we go along. So in the year that has passed, the fact is that the Black Sea grain corridor has become a source of concern. It's non-functioning. The attacks on the infrastructure are a source of concern. The fact that there is a discussion going on in groups of countries in the world is also a development which needs to be noted. But most of all, the central concern which needed to be captured was the impact of all of this on the rest of the world.
The global south.
Now, if you are you're trying to, let's say we have this as a position, now you want to also carry this and this. In any kind of international negotiation, that core is not going to remain exactly what it was, then they will say, fine, then go with that and let's not get anything else in. So my own sense is I would say very respectfully to all parties who may have concerns of the kind that you have expressed, that look, this is a evolving issue. It cannot be that on the one hand you say, oh, by the way, the entire world is concerned about it, but I will not express that concern in a statement. That the concern will only be a very narrow concern, which will be a cut and paste from a previous year. So, if it is a truly global happening, which is why we are discussing it in the G20.
Correct.
Okay. Then the totality of that should be captured, no?
Sure. So, the other big announcement that happened on the sidelines of the G20 was this corridor between India, the Middle East, going all the way to Western Europe. Many are saying this is in response to China's Belt and Road. I know you will say that it stands on its own merit, but we have not seen, at least in scale, something to match what China has been doing for the last 10 years with One Belt, One Road. So, to that extent, to the scale extent at least, is this something that matches up to it?
Look, I think the moment you get into comparisons, you are going down a fundamentally wrong road. Okay? What is this about? This is about you have a very important economic center, historically, in human history, which today is once again regaining its place. It's the 5th largest economy, it's going to get bigger. You have another big historical economic center, Europe, and then you have countries between them, which again traditionally have played a very important role in ensuring commerce, not only between these two poles, if you would, but also between these countries in the middle and them. So, you know, yesterday evening we had a dinner for the Saudi delegation because the Crown Prince was here, and one of the Saudis actually were telling me, they said, look, we have parts of Saudi Arabia where for generations there are pathways and there are routes. Everybody knows historically these were the routes which went to and from India. He said these are places where actually people enjoyed a high standard of living. They actually had a way of living which was related to the trafficking, to the goods movement which is going there. Now, similarly with UAE, you know how deeply the maritime tradition, the dhows coming, the monsoon trade, etc. So we have now a certain favorable geopolitical situation where Saudi Arabia would like to step forward and facilitate a certain seamless logistical movement. You have UAE wishing to do the same. You have an India which is focused very much on Europe, a Europe which is very much focused on India. So what would you do if you are a smart strategist? You would put it all together. And so I would say, in a way, it's very much an evolution. On the one hand, a greater awareness in India and Europe about the merits of dealing with each other economically, but also greater awareness on both India and Europe's part of the importance of the region, especially the Gulf and the Arabian Peninsula here, and of the countries themselves. So this is a big deal because it, the question of how to create seamless economic flows, logistical flows, is one of the big issues in world history. So the return to history, you would say.
It's going back.
And that return to history predates any belt or any road which any country may have had.
Okay. Now, one of the concerns about this belt and road that we were both referring to has been about the debt sustainability. We've seen countries, smaller countries that are not able to afford and going financially broke, even closer home countries like Sri Lanka. This corridor, how may it be more sustainable? How is it envisaged to be more sustainable?
Well, just look at the players here. Okay, you are talking India, Saudi, UAE, Europe, and America, and you are even thinking debt sustainability. Okay. I mean, these are countries with deep pockets. These are countries with a strong market. You know, they have the ability to evaluate projects and to say yes, this will work and that will not work. So I look again. I'm not making a political point when I say don't compare. I genuinely believe that this one is different. This is a set of today contemporary leaderships very aware of the opportunities before them, taking what has been a time-tested historical concept and then trying to see if we can give it a modern incarnation, and that is why I think it's very important.
You did mention about the Green Climate Fund. It was announced many years ago in Paris. It was a $100 billion fund. Not much of that money has gone to developing countries, and now in this Delhi edition of the G20 there's been an announcement of a new Green Climate Action Plan. Where is the nub of the problem? Is it that the developed world just doesn't want to cough up the money, or is it that that mechanism was not working, we're trying something new now?
No, it's it's not just climate action, though obviously if you look at 2023 versus let us say 2015, 2016, no question in the last 6-7 years, climate worries, climate anxieties have grown.
True.
Okay. Each one of us have experienced in our lives. I mean, our lives are hotter, wetter, colder, drier, all at the same time, and that's a bad sign.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's a larger issue. There's a climate action issue. There's also a sustainable development goals issue, which is 3 years of COVID, 1 year of the Ukraine conflict. Where are the resources today to keep the progress? So there are a large number of countries. This was the core message coming out, when we did this Voice of Global South exercise. The core the distillation of what we gathered was really saying, look, we are on the ropes. I mean, we are cutting our nutrition, we are cutting our health, we are cutting our roads, we are cutting our education. So, for God's sake, find us some place where today we get some comfort, some easing up of the financial pressure on us. What therefore we are hoping is that the